So what's going on with chipKIT?
Oh my God. So chipKIT, we have chipKIT Core now.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with that. That means that the whole team isn't being IDE developers. It's more like put all your effort into making the core good and make sure the core gets distributed out. And so anyone who uses that core gets the benefit of all that hard work. So everybody gets to focus on improving and updating and fixing and basically improving the platform itself. So that's why like chipKIT Core I think is really great that that's actually a thing now. And then the next parts are, you know, trying to bring more features in. So there's always the Harmony USB combo that just continues to be worked on. But the next thing for me is getting the library management, because I want more libraries, more testing, and all of that included into the system. So I've got a new on the side open source project called Arduino Mass Test. So that's going to just like basically allow people to sign their libraries up to be tested.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be a new thing. So that's in the infancy stage. It's open source project in my GitHub right now. And then, but I think there's a lot of support for it. Vasilis from Code Vendor was really into it. So anyway, I think that libraries will, the library manager stuff is going to happen more and more. I want to get all of our libraries blocked out into the manager itself. That way you can pick and choose, and more people can contribute libraries to the project. I think that's really important, is getting more of the community and other people doing and updating libraries. A lot of stuff is essentially looking at the Arduino and seeing that it's like a 32-bit value versus an 8-bit value.
Right.
You know, not a lot of stuff is actually broken per se. It's actually just the nature of the chip has to be accommodated.
I don't know, you know, with the some of the stuff that we did with the with going from the old MPIDE to the 1.0 and the kind of the effort of not breaking old stuff. Yeah. One of my students, I posted it on the forum, one of my students is using an Arduino library that doesn't work on Arduino, but works on chipKIT Core 1.1.
Yeah, well that was actually kind of like the way the core stuff actually works, is you can sort of fork a version of core off that matches the compatibility of the time.
Right.
And that's something that I wanted to make sure we did keep, was the ability to have all the old versions in case you need them. So it's sort of, there's even more of a technical issue there. Yeah, so there's actually one really significant thing. A lot of times, instead of breaking backwards compatibility, what we did was we actually accommodated the old and the new. So when you dig down far enough, you can actually see we still have code that supports the previous API whenever we could. So that's actually kind of neat in the core. There's more accommodation for older libraries because we essentially kept both definitions in place.
Okay.
It's interesting because it's actually possible to have very good compatibility between the old and new stuff, but it was decided sort of on the Arduino end to make a major break between the old and the new, and they didn't have to. There was absolutely ways to accommodate like upgrading from one API to the other.
Right.
Just they could probably do it now because of with all the core design and all the multi-platform stuff in place. Yeah. But I don't think they were thinking they could do it when they did it.
Right.
So
I think at the time, I think there was a lot of pressure from chipKIT, because that was at that time when they were doing that was when chipKIT just came out, and all of a sudden they had a slow processor and a slow everything, and we better make something good, and we better do it fast.
Yeah. No, it's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think the group is very much dedicated to open source. They were dedicated to moving things forwards. And I think some of the challenge from like chipKIT and stuff like that were out there, but you know, like our multi-platform code, I wrote that code specifically so we could have multiple platforms.
Right.
And that code was written almost 5 years ago. And actually here at Maker Faire Bay Area, we got like the Blue Ribbon Award for like doing such a cool thing with chipKIT.
Awesome.
Because the multi-platform code that was in multi-platform IDE
Right.
is in Arduino.
Right.
And that code in 1.5 was finally released maybe back in September of 2015.
Right.
We had done this in 2011, and it had been sitting in the master branch of Arduino for that amount of time. So I think that they didn't have a lot of confidence in where they wanted to go, and I think that eventually the idea was, yeah, we have to go that way.
Yeah.
We have to be multi-chip. We have to be multi-platform. And I think when that finally clicked in, they moved into the newer like 1.6, and they moved all that stuff forward. They made the board manager. So the board manager is a really nice thing that sits on top of the code we did. And so it's actually super significant now because one is there's like 2 Arduinos, and also the world is such a weird place. You know, Atmel is now a subsidiary of Microchip.
Right.
So your brand wars make no sense. So now you can just pick the best chip for the job. And I think that's where the idea is you want whatever chip for the job, TI, Microchip, you know, Atmel, you know, any number of other ones, you could easily go, okay, I would rather use the Arduino API for that.
Yep.
And then now that I've mastered the Arduino API, I feel like I can do some other things.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's where I wanted to go, and I think the world looks more like that today than it did like 5 years ago.
You know, there's one thing that has always bothered me about the Arduino API that I don't know if it'll ever be fixed, and that's that you can't set your output pin high or low before you change your trace register.
Well, because that's done underneath.
Yeah.
That's not, you know, you have to actually like pre-process that.
Yeah.
Or you have to do it in a library, or you might actually have to overwrite it in the core. Yeah. I also want fast PWM.
Oh, okay.
That's my basic test for things.
Okay.
Is that people in the community have wanted fast PWM forever. All of these particular chips and boards can do it.
Yeah.
And nobody has actually put that in as like a general purpose library.
What do you mean by fast PWM?
So let's say I wanted a PWM
At a high frequency?
at a high frequency, like so instead of 16 megahertz or 15 kilohertz,
Okay.
or some sort of, you could bit bang it.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about like analog write is that you just say analog write. You know, what frequency would you like with your analog?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because you could change the carrier signal better that way.
Yep.
And that would actually make it easier to use for the motors.
Right.
Because they need a particular signal to run or drive the motor into the controllers. So if I was able to use fast PWM, I could immediately take any of these things and make them an input into a motor controller.
Okay.
Because I'll get the right frequency.
Right. All right. Cool.
Anyway, yep, there you go.
Thanks.